Your mind is either a weapon or a battlefield. There is no neutral ground. There is an old story, nearly 2,000 years old, and I need to tell it to you plainly. A master, rich, powerful, cruel, took hold of his slave's leg and began to twist it. The slave did not scream. He did not beg. He looked his master in the eye, calm as still water, and he said only, "You will break it." Just that. 3 words, no plea, no bargain, and the master kept on. When the bone finally gave way, when it broke, the slave did not curse him. He did not weep. He said quietly, "I told you so." That's all. I told you so. He had said exactly what would happen. And it happened. And he was crippled for the rest of his life. His name was Epictetus, and the thing the master came to break was the one thing his hands could never reach. He was not born a philosopher. He was born a slave. Hierapolis, in Phrygia, a province so far from Rome, the emperor himself would have struggled to find it on a map. His name, in Greek, means acquired. He was property before he was a person. He was sold to a man named Epictetus, a freedman who had risen to serve Nero himself. Rich, connected, brutal. Picture it. The shadow first. Then a robed back turned away. Then one hand with a heavy gold ring. Never the face. That's all evil ever gives you of itself. The back of it, the hand of it, never the face. The master owned a great deal. He owned the boy's days. He owned where he slept. He owned what he ate. He owned whether he stood or knelt. But here is the thing that undoes me every time I sit with this story. The shadow stretched across that floor. It reached for the gold light at the boy's chest, and it stopped. It could not cross into it. He owned the body. He could not get his hand around the will. Some part of that boy was simply not for sale, and the master, for all his rings, for all his power, could never find the price. There is a phrase Epictetus used later in life, when he was free, when he was teaching, when men crossed the sea just to sit at his feet. He said, "You are a little soul carrying around a corpse." Hard words. But hear what he meant before you flinch from them. The cup is borrowed. The cup was always borrowed. It chips. It cracks. One day it breaks. That was never up for debate. Not for him. Not for you. But the light inside it, that is a different thing entirely. The clay is on loan. The light is on loan to no one. Somewhere in those years, between the orders, between the silences, between the moments a man who owns nothing finds to think, Epictetus discovered philosophy. Musonius Rufus, a Stoic, a teacher who did not care that his student wore the tunic of property. And what Epictetus began to understand in that cold stone hall was something that would outlast the empire that held him. He did not call it the dichotomy of control. That name came centuries later. Scholars and footnotes and the slow machinery of classification. But he lived it before he named it. He breathed it before he taught it. Here is what he saw. There are things that are up to us. Our judgments, our desires, our decisions. The place we aim our minds when the world goes dark. And there are things that are not up to us. Our bodies, our reputations, our possessions, the opinions of other men, the commands of masters. The master could take his leg. He could take his freedom. He could take his name. He could not take his judgment. He could not take his will. He could not take his choice. In any given moment, in any given pain, about who he was going to be. This was not an abstract philosophy. It was not a thought experiment in a garden. It was a survival mechanism. It was the only thing that stood between a slave and obliteration. Every thought is a vote. Every reaction is a choice. That small pause between stimulus and response is where strength is born. Epictetus learned this not from books. He learned it from the floor, from the cold, from the shadow of a master whose face he never needed to see to understand exactly what he was up against. Now we return to it, not as a story you heard, as a moment a man lived. The master. Epaphroditus, whose name you will forget, whose rings are dust now, was in a cruel mood. A whim, a passing impulse. That is all cruelty ever is. Not grand, not planned. Just a small man with power and a bad afternoon. He took hold of the boy's leg, and he began to twist. And the boy, who owned nothing, whose body was not even his own, whose name meant acquired, looked his master in the eye. He did not scream. He did not beg. "You will break it." And the master kept on. And when the bones snapped, when the leg gave way, the slave did not curse him. He did not weep. "I told you so." 3 words, the second time. No triumph in them, no anger, just truth. He had said what would happen, and it happened. And he was crippled for the rest of his life. And through all of it, the twisting, the crack, the shatter, that one mote of gold light does not move, not a tremble. Because the one thing the master came to break was the one thing his hands could never reach. It does not obey emotion, it questions it. It does not shout, it observes. It does not rush, it chooses. Epictetus gained his freedom. The records are not precise about how. Some say after Nero's death, when Epaphroditus's fortunes turned. Some say the master simply grew tired of a slave who could not be broken. It does not matter. What matters is this. The man who was owned by another man walked out of that hall, and he did not look back. He went to Nicopolis, a Greek city on the western coast, and there he opened a school. Students crossed the sea to sit at his feet. The Emperor Hadrian himself visited him. The man whose leg was broken by a master's whim taught emperors. He taught generals. He taught merchants and farmers, and young men who had heard there was a philosopher in Nicopolis who spoke about freedom like someone who had earned the right. One of his students, Arrian, wrote down everything he said. Those notes became the Discourses, the handbook, the Enchiridion. Books that have never gone out of print. Books that soldiers carried into battle. Books that prisoners read in cells. Books that a man named James Stockdale, shot down over Vietnam, held captive for 7 years, credited with keeping him alive. The crippled slave walked farther than any of the men who once stood over him. They took the leg, they could not take the road. And Epaphroditus? The man who broke the leg is a footnote now, a minor figure. Remembered, if he is remembered at all, as the master who crippled Epictetus. Here is the whole thing in one breath. The chained man stayed free. The free man stayed chained. One of them could not be touched. The other could not be filled. And it had nothing to do with the rings, or the silk, or whose leg still worked. It had to do with which thing each of them decided he was. The light was never trapped in Rome. It was never trapped in the cup. It was never trapped in the story. It was the one part of a man that the world simply does not get a vote on. It's not what happens to you, it's how you react to it. A slave with a broken body said that, and he meant it. Not as a slogan, not as a comfort, as a fact. Tested, proven, paid for. Your body will do what bodies do. It will weaken, it will ache, it will one day break. That was never up for debate. What is up for debate, the only thing that ever was, is what you decide to be while it happens. The cup is borrowed, the light is yours. Where the mind becomes a weapon, not a battlefield.